let me just first ask you, as a diplomat, as a statesperson from I guess traditional conservative and Reagan values, what did you make of that public bust-up in the White House on Friday?
I thought it was absolutely dreadful. I thought that both Zelensky and Trump behaved very badly. They were shouting at each other, not letting the other speak. And that was appalling in front of all the world's cameras. If that's what Trump intended, then he had very poor judgment.
Do you think so? I mean, there is obviously a load of people, you yourself seem to be saying it might have been an ambush. We certainly have heard from many, many people. The White House denies it. But the the leader of the German elections say it looked very much like a manufactured escalation.
I don't know whether it was or not. And to be perfectly honest, I think at this stage it's no longer relevant whether it was or not. It is the consequences that flowed from that. And I think the first point I would like to make, if I may, is that, yes, that evening, that confrontation was a disaster for Zelensky, but it's also, in many ways, a disaster or a potential disaster for Trump. His great ambition at the beginning of his presidency is to negotiate with Putin a ceasefire. Now, even if that negotiation seemed to be successful, it cannot be implemented unless Zelensky agrees, because Zelensky can just continue fighting. And he cannot be stopped except by a continuation of the war. So there's just nothing rational in what Trump is doing unless it was a short-term tactic. Now, I was interested at the end of that ghastly evening. Trump said that Zelensky could return to the Oval Office, but only if he's committed to peace. Well, that's actually a very low formula, low barrier to have to get over. Anyone can say they're committed to peace and mean it. It's what flows from that is more relevant.
So let me ask you, let's dig down into this, because, Trump says he believes Putin really wants peace. Trump says he wants peace, which I have no doubt about. And they're now blaming Zelensky for, quote, not wanting peace. Well, Zelensky says, of course we want peace, but we need backstops, we need deterrence, because we've seen this movie before. And Putin seems to, at least in their public utterances until now, have maximalist goals which involve the essential surrender of Ukraine. Where do you see the possibility, if ever, of these two coming to some kind of ability to sign a real peace?
Well, first of all, we have to understand what the conflict is about in relation to where we are at this precise moment. First of all, if you're going to have a ceasefire without resolving the long-term issues that divide two countries, the only credible and honorable way in which you can have a ceasefire is if there are genuine compromises on both sides. Now, the whole world knows the compromises that Zelensky will have to make, and which he, broadly speaking, has himself acknowledged, that Ukraine will not be part of NATO, and that at least for the foreseeable future, the Russians will remain in control of the territory, or most of the territory they currently occupy. But what are the compromises that President Trump is going to demand from Mr. Putin? There are none yet known, and Mr. Trump has declined to say. So that is one issue that has to be addressed. The second issue, and it's a very important one, is to understand the importance of what are called the security guarantees. If we've already had two invasions of Ukraine, one when they annexed Crimea and the Donbass, and the second 3 years ago when this war began. In both occasions, Putin was ignoring promises he had given never to invade Ukraine. He did it with the Budapest Memorandum some years ago, and then he did it with the so-called Minsk Accords. And in both cases, he broke his promises. So it is not unreasonable, indeed it's perfectly sensible, of Zelensky to say, how would the United States react if, having got a ceasefire, Putin in a year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time, invades Ukraine again? What will America do? We know what Europe would want to do. What would America do? And that is what President Trump has refused to respond to. And that is what puts him in a very, very weak position.